You're listening to Crashes, Claims, and Clarity, hosted by Darrell Burrow, a Georgia-based personal injury attorney with over 30 years of experience and founder of Burrow and Associates. With a background in both legal strategy and compassionate client care, Darrell has helped over 10,000 individuals and families navigate life after injury. Guided by his Christian faith and a deep sense of justice, he brings expert insight, personal stories, and powerful interviews to every episode. If you're looking for truth, support, and clarity in the aftermath of an accident, this is your place. This is Crashes, Claims, and Clarity.
Well, hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Crashes, Claims, and Clarity. I am your host, Darrell Burrow. I am the founder and owner of the law firm of Burrow and Associates, a personal injury law firm located here in Duluth, Georgia, serving all of Georgia. Thank you again for joining us. And remember that today's episode is for educational purposes. No legal advice is intended to be given, no medical advice intended to be given, and the show is not sponsoring or recommending any particular service or product or provider. Today's topic is important. It's about after an accident, what are all the things that people don't think about? And they don't think about until they become major stressors after the accident. Where am I going to treat? How am I going to find the right specialist? What about an attorney? How am I going to pick an attorney? How am I going to find a competent attorney? All those things that they never think about that all of a sudden become front of mind. Today we're joined by Darrin Zehr, director of the law firm Business Development at Gain. And Darrin, did I pronounce that last name correctly?
Yes, you did. It's really refreshing.
Okay, perfect. Well, again, Darrin is the law firm Business Development at Gain, and he works with medical providers and works with law firms, coordinating care, improving communication, and trying to make sure that people who are injured, that all of a sudden they are not just lost in the wilderness after an event like this. Well, Darrin, thank you so much for joining me today. I appreciate you.
No problem at all.
All right. Well, first, tell us what is Gain? What does it do? Where does it fit in the process?
Well, Gain originally started as a funding company doing cash advances, but then we've evolved into a revenue cycle management platform that we can provide capital. We have a network of over 5,000 providers around. We have 15,000 law firms that we talk to. We try to serve as, actually the easiest way to say it is like the layer between the doctor and the lawyer, coordinating treatment, managing the bills, the notes, the records, handling the back end and resolving cases. Sometimes that's, during the recovery process. And we let patients treat patients and we let lawyers represent their plaintiffs. So we try to make sure that everybody's doing everything. We're basically the middleman for everybody.
Okay, a liaison, so to speak.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, tell us a little bit about yourself and how did you become involved with Gain?
I was originally in the car industry for about 12 to 15 years. And I wanted to get out and do something different. And I found one of my friends who worked at who was originally Cherokee Funding, which is now Gain. I called me up and I started with the intake department. So I was the guy that was answering the phone calls for all the clients, taking all their information, contacting the lawyers, getting the documentation for those fundings for those clients. And then over the years, it just resolved into me having a lot of good relationships and moving into the sales side of it and working on the law firm business development team. So now I run and direct that for everybody. So it's been a great process, and it's really nice because I got to see everything from the beginning of what the clients go through all the way up until now. So it's, and I get to meet the attorneys out and about and making sure that they are equipped with getting the proper care for the clients.
Okay. Well, you just hit upon stressors for the client. What are those, breaking apart each one?
When you're talking to a client, most of the time they don't know what's happening. That's the biggest stressor that a lot of them have because, no one asked to get rear-ended at a red light this morning. It's, they the communication for them is they don't know where to go and what to do. So what we try to do is make sure that they have the access to care that me, you, and a lot of others do have. And so when they're having their breakdowns, they're just basically they need almost the lack of better way to say it is a helping hand. Somebody that's there, understands what they're going through, and being able to help them through every single pothole that's going to be coming up after that accident. Because the accident a lot of times is, the simplest part because it's done like that. Having to go to appointments and then having, miss work and doing all these things that they never expected to do that morning, completely shifts their life.
Talk us through or tell us what that coordination looks like.
From the client side, when the originally most of the time they go to the ER, and they come out of the ER and then they're looking for a law firm. Normally they're connected to one, they get that taken care of. And then from there, they have options that the coordination from the facility actually asks them to go to PT, pain management, ortho, whatever that may be. And we're able to get with the attorney's office and coordinate care for the clients. So we can set up appointments. We can make sure that the clients are being seen. We can provide the transportation. We can make sure we get them back and forth. So there's a lot of moving parts, but a lot of it is just communication between the lawyer, the client, and the facility, and making sure that all three are in one piece. And we kind of sit in the middle and making sure that everybody's taken care of and getting the client seen as fast as possible without any gaps in treatment.
Okay. Yeah, good. Touch on communication for just a second. And
Mhm.
a lot of law firms, I mean, everyone's busy. They're working on stuff all the time.
Yeah,
Doctors, same way. It seems like communication can be one of the client's biggest problems, and it's also up to individual interpretation because
correct.
one client, if they don't get the lawyer on the phone at the moment they call, well, that's bad communication. To somebody else, oh, you didn't call them back after 30 days, that's bad communication. So
Mhm.
touch on that aspect.
Well, the communication side of everything is, one of the reasons that we built our online portal. I'm going to leave out the plaintiff for a second. We have a bridge between the facility and the attorney where we were able to move notes back and forth very quickly in their communication there. So people can see in there when their appointments are, they can see, get all the bills, notes, and records directly from the facility. They load them in, the attorney's able to see them, and they're able to cut down on a lot of things. So when the law firm needs some of that communication, they can actually get it directly through the portal, and we are the ones that assist in getting that. And when it comes to the client side of it, you're absolutely right, and you hit it nail on the head. It can really depend on the client, because when I was in intake, you have one client that would wait 2 days before he called, and the next one would wait 3 minutes. Everything we want to make sure is taken care of, but you got to make sure that when you're talking to them, you have empathy and you're there for them. And I think that's the biggest part for anyone is that sometimes we forget that, the plaintiffs or the patients are people too. They don't know what's happening and they're just freaking out, and having that empathy and just being there for them sometimes is the most important part. And so when it comes to communication, it's true, but I think a lot of times it's just having that, lack of a better word, shoulder hand on their shoulder, like your dad would, and be like, hey, we'll get through this together.
Hmm. And you touched that on it earlier that once they have an accident, that many of them they're in the land of the unknown. So that's
Mhm.
really important to be that guiding hand for them to
Yeah.
let them know you're going to get them through it.
Yeah, it's one of those things that, like, I think a lot of people don't realize was I was in an accident in Houston, and thank goodness I knew what I was doing, and I knew all the steps to take. But it gave me an eye-opening thing of, like, seeing doctors, going to the MRI, doing all these things that, like, you've never had to do before, and then when you're going through it, it's scary because a lot of these people A, couldn't afford to go to the doctor, or B, didn't want to go to the doctor. Now they're basically told they have to, or they need to. They have, these casts, and they always have that like weird response of like, am I going to have to pay for this, and so on. And it's those things that everybody around them has to corral. And again, it's a lack of better, it's terrifying for them
Hmm.
because they don't know what's happening and their world is spinning. They got into a car wreck. Now they don't have a car. Their job is in limbo. They have 3 doctor's appointments this week, and everything's been uprooted. So again, I repeated it, now I'm going to say it again. It's like sometimes you just got to have empathy for them and making sure that they know you're there.
Yeah. You touched a second ago about documentation and being visible. Can you expand on that a little bit?
Yeah, when it comes to documentation, it's absolutely, it's one of the most important things of whether it's being documented from the facility side or whether it's being documented from the attorney side. It does make a big difference because a lot of times when we're looking at this, it doesn't stop. And nothing should. Okay, I'm gonna start over for a second. I apologize, Darrell.
It's okay.
So documentation does matter, and a lot of times things need to be signed, things need to be done, but sometimes when they're sitting there on the stretcher and they're going into the hospital, that's probably not the best time to try to get something signed. So everything, the timing is key. They want to make sure that when you're doing it also at the right time. Because again, if I'm being asked to sign something right after I'm, being transported in an ambulance, that's probably not a good time. But at the end of the day, we need to make sure everything is documented and make it easy for them for the documentation as well. We have all of these tools now. You can do things over the phone, you can do them over the web, you can have e-sign, all those other
That's
things, and
right.
take it to an advantage and make it easier for the clients. Because again, they don't want to leave their house. They're on pain medications or whatever. So, when it comes to that, they want to make sure it's good and have it for the facilities and everybody. But again, it's massively important. It can't go unnoticed, but it also sometimes it needs to be timing, and we have to be human about it as well.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So a patient is doing everything right, yeah, doing everything they're supposed to, communicating when they're supposed to. What are still some of the things that can throw a wrench in the whole works?
Well, if they're honestly, if they're seeing, if they're communicating, they're doing everything right. I don't personally see anything that's going to be throwing a wrench in
Okay.
because they are having it, they're doing what they're supposed to be doing on the level of both if they're following the care of the doctor and the advice of their lawyer. If they're doing both of those, I don't see it's going to be anything that's going to be unreasonable that's going to be coming in. But I mean, if you're asking me for anything, maybe it would be the fact of like, they missed an appointment or they're late to one or so on and so forth. But
Okay.
for me overall, I don't. If they're doing it right, then not really. I don't really see anything that would truly throw a wrench into it.
Okay.
Because the attorney's been doing it long enough, and I'm sure the doctor has too.
So everyone seems to be using some sort of AI and maybe more than one of those tools. Is that something that Gain has been able to incorporate?
Yes.
If so, how and how is it helping?
Yeah, AI is actually in the name game. So we actually did it that way. We use it a lot for, data. So when we're looking through and you have mountains of paperwork and you have a lot of information that we need to go through rather quickly, and not just for us. I mean, the attorneys that I meet with as well, they have a mountain of paperwork now. Instead of having 72 boxes, they get 4 gigs of information. It can easily go through it. But I always want to say that AI is not there to replace anybody. It's to speed you up because you can gather all that information, but you still need to make sure it's done right. You need to make sure
Of
all your
course.
T's are crossed, and your I's are dotted. So as you can take things, you know, 7,000 pages of information and have it all go through it and pull it out, you're probably still going to have to do some manual correction on that, but it does speed it up and it makes it a lot easier. And then for us, it's, going through and taking a look at, helping doctors take a look at their repayments and, and having the lawyers take a look at what hospitals and so on and so forth, so they can have all that information within dashboards in our portal. So we just gather all that information as well, and it makes it much, much smoother for everybody.
Yeah. Well, listen, Darren, it sounds like y'all provide a great service and work as a very helpful liaison to get things moving forward, and also to bring peace and comfort to an injured
Yeah.
party. Tell everybody where they might be able to get in touch with Gain. How would they do that? How would they find y'all?
They could go on our website, gainservicing.com. They could find me there. I don't know if I give out my email address.
You certainly
Uh,
can.
it's Darrin, Darrin at gainservicing.com. Feel free to reach out to me directly and I can, help you from there. At the end of the day, we want to make sure that everybody's taken care of in the right way and get the correct care. And that's what we're here for.
Yeah, that's great. It's been very informative. Thank you for letting us know about that service. Seems like
Yeah.
it's making a great impact. And I appreciate you joining me today, man.
No, thank you, sir. It's been a pleasure.
All right, Darren, take care.
Take care.
You've been listening to Crashes, Claims, and Clarity with attorney Darrell Burrow, founder of Burrow & Associates and a trusted advocate for over 30 years. If today's episode helped bring clarity or hope after an accident, be sure to follow, subscribe, and leave a review. To connect with Darrell or learn more, visit legalatlanta.com. Join us next week for another honest, faith-centered conversation about recovery, rights, and moving forward after injury.